Welcome to On the Point Podcast, a podcast for all things Overwatch with a heavy focus on League, discussing roster moves, weekly matchups, and everything we've missed over the past, 6 months? At least?
Something like that. It's just been a lot of work schedules not lining up and then burnout from other things. But now we're back. We have things to talk about again, and
Life has just basically been insane.
yeah, things have evened out, which is why we're here and we're doing this again.
Yeah. I'm Katie. I'm the support main.
I'm CJ. I play tank.
And this is going to be wild.
Yeah,
when
got a lot
last
to-
we left our heroes, the San Francisco Shock had dropped a match to Atlanta Reign that they really shouldn't have with a massive C9 and then run train on the losers bracket to become our Season 2 champions.
Yeah, and since then there has been a lot of preparation for Season 3, a lot of teams securing their venue, all their venues, the homestands have all been announced. There's been a ton of roster moves and talent changes, and the
Team color changes too.
Team color changes.
Capital O opinions on that.
And the biggest news, I think, is that YouTube is now the exclusive streaming partner of the Overwatch League, and Google Cloud is the preferred provider for its game hosting infrastructure. This is replacing the previous deal that they had with Twitch that was 2 years and a $90 million dollar deal.
This is wild.
Yeah,
This is wild.
But I know that a lot of people's knee jerk is to be like, this is awful, and I'm like,
I saw the opinion that the deal was mostly made for the Google Cloud being the preferred provider bit, and that the Overwatch League and Call of Duty League were kind of ancillary on top of that, because having Google Cloud as the provider, that Google has almost no downtime.
Yeah.
It's basically unheard of, and their infrastructure is insane.
Yeah.
So it's not a bad company to trust your gigantic, ridiculous, needs to be up all the time infrastructure to. That's not a bad decision.
No, it's not.
And there have been issues with Twitch, outages, stream issues. We're not sure what Amazon is really doing with it.
Well, yeah, Amazon doesn't. I don't
care.
Yeah, I don't think they care all that much, and that's one of the reasons I honestly think this could end up being a good thing, which is, yeah, Twitch is kind of the de facto gaming streaming platform, but YouTube gaming, YouTube has the ability to stream at a higher bit rate, meaning a
Better quality
stream. Google's analytics tools are so far ahead of what Twitch has, meaning that Overwatch League will now have a better picture of who is watching Overwatch League, when and where, and for how long. Which, when you're doing a multi-million-dollar media enterprise that you're hoping will be self-sustaining for years to come, that's a very important thing. And I forget who said it, but someone talked about how this was a much better deal financially than the Twitch one as well.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised given the preferred provider bit being on top of that as well. They're not just getting streaming on a platform. They're getting hosting.
Yeah.
Which is a thing.
It's also Google money. And apparently there was a bidding war for the Overwatch League, and Google made the best offer.
I mean, they are Google.
Yeah,
You can throw a lot of money. Well, Amazon can also throw a lot of money into that.
Yeah, but they don't give a shit about Twitch, is the thing.
Yeah. I think the big concern that I've seen just at the watcher viewpoint is, what about tokens?
Yeah.
And what about... And Twitch chat's not quite the right thing, but there were different chats. There was the ability to see different players' views.
Yeah, the command center.
The command center, I think, was one of the big concerns.
Yeah,
and I did pony up $15, but it was mostly just to never watch those ads again, because that was hell.
Yeah, well, I also like being the analytical / try hard in game that I am. I paid for that as well to, get the player perspectives and see what they're doing that I'm not, and just try and learn from that. And I understand the concern regarding what about this feature, but I would be shocked if they didn't implement something like this.
I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't. Wow. I'm having a words night tonight, guys. It's going to be super fun. I wouldn't be surprised if Google spent some money to try to get something going for this. And if it weren't part of the contract, is we're going with you, but we need you to build what we had with them.
Yeah, we need you to give us the same functionality that we had previously on top of what it is that you're offering us in terms of more and better services.
Yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised if there were some engineers where their full-time job right now is just figuring out how to do that.
Yeah, and the other thing to keep in mind about this is that YouTube has way more Generation Z engagement than Twitch does. The teens and below crowd love their YouTube, which hypothetically does give the chance of bringing Overwatch League to a wider audience in doing this. Because I'll be real, with 2 years of Overwatch League on Twitch, I think everybody who realistically wanted to get into it that was basically from Twitch's existing audience of people as opposed to people that are checking out the Overwatch League for the Overwatch League, I think everyone's had the opportunity on Twitch to look at it. And while, changing URLs does potentially mean that some audience won't carry over, I don't think it's going to be a huge amount of attrition. And if it's a deal with better money that provides, on paper, better service and potential wider audience, then I really think this has the potential to be good, provided they, capitalize on it right.
Yeah, and I mean, as much as I make jokes about the YouTube algorithm, and if you watch my YouTube channel, I make jokes about the YouTube algorithm a lot.
Well, the thing with
Eldritch Hellbeast tends to be the going thing.
Well, yeah.
But recommended videos, if they are able to pull... Because another thing that we had on Twitch that we don't necessarily have on YouTube is the ability to clip a live stream.
Yeah.
And to just take 30 seconds to minute and a half, two minutes of something, and then just throw it out there and be like, that's all the context you need. Just watch this little teeny highlight reel, and fans being able to do that on the fly. Again, if that's something that YouTube can build in, or if someone at Overwatch League has all right, your job is to grab the top 5 plays of the week and put them up as a separate video on YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
Make real use of the channel, the analytics, the tags, everything. The YouTube recommended algorithm, you go on to watch a game theory about Overwatch, and I love game theory, let's be real. And then one of your recommended videos is top 5 plays in Overwatch League this week, and you click over on it because you're bored or you've left your YouTube on autoplay for some ungodly reason. And that gets you on that channel, and you're watching. Like, the YouTube recommended algorithm is kind of horrifying, but very powerful.
Yeah, and the thing you have to think about in that context is the way that you interact with it as a small content creator, as opposed to a multi-million-dollar company that is paying Google to put their shit front and center. That tool is going to be geared for them specifically.
Oh, yeah. No, this is why I make jokes about the YouTube algorithm. I can, because it likes to eat my channel alive. But when you have a contract with Google and that recommended thing, anytime you watch a gaming video or a Let's Player or anything tangentially related to Overwatch, it's, hey, did you watch this video from the San Francisco Shock this week? Did you watch the comms videos?
Yeah.
The comms videos are some of the best damn things Overwatch League did this past season. They are hysterical.
I was so happy to see those come back because that was a thing prior to Overwatch League. The biggest tournament in Overwatch was Apex, and they had this segment called Apex Open Mic where they would, have clips from all the different games with the players, and honestly, they'd be even a little more creative with the editing. Like there was a clip of Kaiser who is a big main tank player who's still big in Korea, but not as many people outside know about him. But there was footage of players from Runaway trying to calm each other down, and it just cuts to Kaiser's feed, and it's slowly zooming in on his head. They're having the kettle boiling whistle, and his face is slowly turning red.
I don't know. My favorite thing, and that will always still make me laugh from Comms Check, is
Scrumdiddlyumptious.
no, is the Justice talking about how it's cold in here, and Stratus going, "Oh, I'm not bothered by the cold because I'm a tomato," and I just, for some reason, that just makes me cackle every single time. And I think part of it's because I have a soft spot for Stratus the Meme King Overwatch, and part of it's just because it's so completely absurdist comedy that
Yeah.
I just can't. It's just right in the funny bone.
Yeah.
So if they can capitalize on, because I don't think those ever made it on YouTube. I think those were only ever on Twitch and.
They made it on YouTube.
Did they?
They did.
Again, more use of that channel, more use of those little teeny 30 seconds to a minute to 5 minutes. Like, yeah. But my question then is, did it make it on YouTube on the official Overwatch channel, or was it other people uploading them?
Well, your answer is right there.
Okay. Inside the Comms, best of stage 1 10 months ago. Okay, so yeah, Overwatch League actually doing the thing.
And
Good.
then there are
more use of it.
Well, there's also individual teams putting their own stuff out as well.
Oh yeah. But individual team, yeah, this we'll get into Valiant at some point, and I don't think it's going to be tonight.
No. Tonight we're going to be looking at the Atlantic Division rosters, and I was saving Pacific for another time because a lot of teams, a lot of players, a lot of stuff to talk about.
Yeah. No, I you know me. Capital O opinions on Valiant and Gladiators, and
Well, we'll
yeah,
talk. Yeah,
we'll get to that.
We'll get into some today, but another thing you might have opinions about is the departure of a lot of talent from Overwatch League. Puckett will no longer be contracted by the Overwatch League, but he will be the MC for the NYXL's homestands.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. Semler is going back to doing Counter-Strike. Malik...
But Hex is sticking around.
Yeah, he's going to be working with...
Jake?
Leg Day, I think.
Oh, okay.
Who's a caster from Contenders EU. It's either Leg Day or Jaws, I forget which. They were a casting duo together. But yeah, Malik, Monty, and Doa have also all left for greener pastures. There was word that the Overwatch League was not handing out satisfactory money for the, re-upping deals. Malik said that while they didn't, offer him the number he wanted, the drama about it is a bit overblown.
Yeah. But I can definitely understand. It's honestly one of the reasons that I left my previous job is not getting paid what you're worth, knowing your experience, and then in your experience, your skill set, and then in Malik's terms as a host, the people who will show up just for you, for all of them, the fan base that they bring with them. Well, maybe not Monty, but I will forever be a shitbird about Monty. Let's be real.
He's done many things to deserve it.
Yeah. Him I don't miss. The rest of them I will miss.
Yeah.
And let's be real, as much as I don't like Monty, he and Doa were probably the best casting duo there.
Yeah,
I'm really glad that Uber and Mr. X seem to be sticking around because they are also capital Q quality.
Yeah.
And they need people like that.
Yeah.
And I'll be excited to see Jake step up as well, because
he's
changes,
a good caster.
Yeah, because other changes that we have are, well, you've got it later on in the, never mind.
Yes.
Later in the notes.
Yeah. Semler, he had said that basically he just wasn't really having as much fun doing Overwatch as he was doing other games, just kind of lost his passion for it. And if you hear the way that he talked about, if you listen to his casting on Counter-Strike, you could tell that he was way more invested in that. So I think it's
Was it an actual play-by-play?
Sort of, but you can also tell that he's just much more engaged with that. Like it's something that I think he enjoys more. So I'm happy to see him going to doing that. And also, he's really good as a Counter-Strike caster. Like for a very long time, he was one of the sort of prototypical, like, these are the names in that arena. Monty is doing content with Cloud9, but I think he's also going to be doing stuff for the Call of Duty League, and I forget what Doa's doing off the top of my head.
But they did say it's the first time in years that the two of them haven't gone as a pair.
Well, yeah, because they started as a casting duo together in League of Legends in Korea, and then were hired basically to do Overwatch for Apex pretty much like at the launch. So they were doing Overwatch together for nearly 4 years. So that's not insignificant, and that's not including all the time they were doing League prior to that.
Yeah. So that's, I mean, again, like as a personality, I don't miss Monty, but that level of casting, it's going to be hard to find again. Again,
Yeah.
I find myself grateful that Uber and Mr. X are sticking around because they're solid and we need them.
Well, yeah, I also think Uber and Mr. X bring a very good, like, they're the hype caster duo. Then you have Wolf and Achilleos, who are the analytical caster duo.
Yes.
Like, they fill different niches, where I feel like Monty and Doa were the most casual friendly in terms of, here is information on why people are doing this thing, and here is a joke that you will probably get.
Yeah. Like, and I appreciated that they were doing this during stage 2 while they were trying to bring in new viewers and putting it on ABC more and whatnot. The little videos about this is the type of map that we're doing and this is how it works. And, 90 seconds later, you know how a payload map works.
Yeah.
And then just a little bit of this and talking about, well, they're charging their ults and, their ult is their ultimate move that'll do whatever. Just these little bits of information thrown casually into the conversation. So I'm sitting here going, yeah, I know what that is, but it's not enough of a deviation for me to go, oh, I've heard it already.
Yeah.
But if I'm sitting there with one of my friends with no idea what the hell Overwatch is, then they can still kind of pick up on things from the casting and also ask me questions.
Yeah.
So it's filling in the gaps for casual viewers who have just stumbled on it and gone, what the hell is going on? Or parents who are watching with their kids.
Yes. So, yeah, that's the departures in terms of the talent. We will have Zoe stepping up to be the new host, which, awesome.
Queen!
I'm very excited about this.
Deserves it.
Yes, we will also have, we'll get into the retirements, disbands, and tier jumps thing here. With Jake and Custa have both retired from pro play and will be joining the broadcast team. Looks like Custa's going to be more on the the desk, whereas Jake is going to be a caster because he's had some experience with that, doing smaller tournaments, the World Cup, things like that. He's gotten to do that, and I think he's going to be paired with ZP. I think there were rumors of ZP getting called up, which I'm very excited about.
I'm gonna miss Jake on the Outlaws. He was a leader and an emotional cornerstone that you could tell when he wasn't playing that the team was really lacking that.
Well, yeah, he was the team's on-field brainstem.
Brainstem or brain cell?
Yes.
Just the one brain cell, and we play hot potato. That's most pro Overwatch teams.
They have two sometimes because Dante and Super share one, and it depends who has one on the given day. Yeah.
They just tug a war. It's Wait, Dante and Super?
Yeah, they were.
They share it across.
They were on Shark together, season 1.
Just we share it across team lines.
And they're very good friends.
Okay.
It's a joke. It's a joke that predated the team move.
Yes, but can you really share a brain cell with someone who's no longer on your team?
Yes, because Flame tweeted today about going to pick up Dante, and Dante, basically when he was driving off, Dante he didn't get in the car, and then instead of calling Flame to be like, hey, stop, he literally just starts running down the street after the car. So yeah, I think Super had the brain cell on that day.
And if it's Dante and Super sharing it, how good is that brain cell, really? They're good boys.
I mean, they're
good boys.
I mean, it's just the one. Like you it can be fine quality, but if it's just one, like it's not gonna.
That's true.
If you have one stick of RAM in a computer, it's not gonna be doing a great job.
Car with one cylinder.
Yes. That's called a bike.
Anyway, so yeah, I will miss seeing Jake on the Outlaws. Valiant, like, who do we have left? KSF and McGravy, and then we're recruiting a shit ton of other people? Again, I worry about Custa on the desk because Custa has proven in this offseason that he is perennially unable to keep his damn mouth shut. And I'm amazed that he hasn't had any penalties on his NDA for it.
I mean, it's
we
entirely
need-
possible that he has.
And here's the thing: we need to take a minute and talk about non-disclosure agreements
About
for those who
Yeah.
may not be familiar with the idea. And I assume that most of you are, but we're covering all our bases here. A non-disclosure agreement is basically a contract that you sign with a company saying, "Hey, I'm not going to talk about anything pertaining to X thing until that information is public." Non-disclosure agreements are basically currency in the entertainment industry.
Oh, yeah.
You are always under one for something with whatever company. I went to a job interview for a company and I had to sign an NDA upon walking in the door because it was an entertainment company and there was a possibility that while walking to the interview office, I would see something that wasn't out yet. Like, they're big, and that was just to go in for a job interview.
Yeah.
They're huge when you're actually working on a project, and most of them are, you can talk about information if it is publicly shared
Yes.
after the episode drops, the game is played, the PR announcement is made, whatever. Or there's an expiration date where
Yes.
behind the scenes things, you can talk about them after 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Or there may not be an expiration date at all. You may be beholden to that NDA for the rest of your damn life and open to legal consequences if you break it.
Yeah,
and for most of entertainment, if you break an NDA, it's a blacklist. There's not like an actual blacklist, but people aren't gonna want to work with someone who cannot keep a secret.
Yeah, the entertainment industry takes NDAs about as seriously as nature takes the word territorial. So, like, yeah, unless you're important or they like you, it really is a big mark against you if you can't do that. And that's one of the reasons why Disney doesn't let Tom Holland do interviews alone anymore.
Yeah, this is why they have Benedict Cumberbatch sitting next to him going, "Nope," every time he's about to spoil
Yes,
something.
I'll answer that one.
So, yeah, no, it's funny, but it's also he cannot keep his mouth shut. And so I have to wonder what an NDA looks like in the Overwatch League, because we saw that Fissure did get fined for releasing the news of role lock,
Yeah.
even after he'd retired, because just because he'd retired doesn't mean he was exempted from his NDA. It
Yeah.
had an expiration date that had not passed. So it was kind of, no one really announced it. It was just kind of put on the site.
Well,
and Liz found it and published about it because Liz knows her shit.
Well, also Fisher mentioned it on stream.
Did he at some
Yeah.
point? Okay.
Yeah, he, like, after he was sort of coming back, he's like, oh, yeah, no, I got fined for this before, like, yeah. So I would be shocked if Custa hasn't gotten some fine, especially because, like, a couple days ago on Twitch, he's like, no streams for a minute. Like,
Yeah, and it's... The second stream, I think, is the one where I just kind of went, oh my
With
God,
the
because that was
email.
the whole, oh, we saw it was bad, but, they didn't put it up on Twitch, but it automatically went up to other platforms, and I'm like, no.
yeah.
As someone who has multiple platforms, you are responsible for the content that you put up, and if you know it's going to be an issue, you double check every platform you auto post to make sure it doesn't go. It's still an NDA violation, even if you just forgot about your automation. Like,
Yeah.
I'm mad. I'm mad.
Well, and the other
I'm so mad.
The other thing is that one in particular is egregious because not only did it announce like contracted talent that hadn't been announced yet, but it also gave you a date, time, and location as to where they were going to be doing a thing. Like that,
Which is bad. Like,
Yeah.
y'all.
yeah, in the entertainment industry, that shit is really not cool. Like, I from working PA gigs, I have phone numbers and emails for some rather important people
yeah.
in geek circles. But you know that if that shit ever got out anywhere, that's like, I would
Yeah.
never get a job again.
And you would probably be sued.
Yes.
So it's that sort of thing where, and maybe we have this perspective because we both worked in the entertainment industry in one
Yeah.
capacity or another. But the fact that someone flagrantly violates their NDA in huge ways, at least twice, and gets promoted to the desk.
Well,
it's like, this is live.
The desk thing happened before
Yeah.
the leaks.
But he still has, there doesn't seem to have been I don't know. It
Just
seems
because
like
they
the
haven't
leaks...
announced a fine doesn't mean there hasn't been one.
True, but we've also seen that fines are not deterrents in this league.
I mean,
Let's be real.
Scale it up would be my...
This is true. This is very true. It's just one of those things where you just watch someone violate their NDA for the second time and go, oh my actual God. At that point, you just stop going on stream.
Also, you're forgetting how young most people in this league are and how limited their life experience in a professional context is. I'm not saying...
Custa's 23, 24? 20-something.
Yeah.
25.
Well, I'm just saying, not Custa specifically, but you said, like...
Oh, I am talking about Custa specifically at this point.
Well, you said that the fines are not a deterrent in this league. I'm not saying that... I'm saying for the majority of people, they're young and dumb.
Oh, yeah.
Custa needs to get his shit together.
Custa, Sideshow, like, again, I'm not looking at...
Custa and Sideshow, it's like that bit in Harry Potter where McGonagall's like, whenever there's trouble, it's always you two.
Oh my God, you're right. Ooh.
And
this is basically me saying, you two are adults, you should know better. The 18-year-old being a dumb fuck, he just got out of high school. Like, okay, I get it. He needs to learn. Y'all need to know better. You're old enough and have enough experience that...
Well, Sideshow also did shave off his eyebrows on stream.
God.
I love Sideshow. I've met him in person many times, and he's very nice, and I very much enjoy talking to him, and he's a cool guy. At the same time...
Who's he sharing his brain cell with?
Bren?
Yeah, probably.
I love both of them, but there are times where they are very much wet match in a dark cave. Like... And I say that as someone who's done some dumb shit that no one listening to this will ever find out about. But...
We've all done some dumb shit. It just depends on the scale.
Yeah. Anyway, let's keep rolling here.
The point is the adults need to know better, and I feel like there needs to be maybe a slightly more stringent policy on NDAs.
Yeah, I imagine that's going to be happening in the near future.
When there's a bigger slap on the wrist for behavioral issues than there are for breaking the NDA, like, guys?
Yeah, so moving on.
Yeah.
We, in terms of other retirements, kind of springboarding off Jake to the rest of the Houston Outlaws, Banny and Cool Matt have both retired to behind-the-scenes roles. Cool Matt hasn't had his specific thing announced, where Banny will be an individual coach. Was it for Houston? I think it was
Houston.
I think it was Houston because I know somebody got picked up as a coach for Justice as like individual performance coach, but I imagine Banny's still.
I know. I remember what you're saying about the Justice. I remember that happening too, but I think that Banny is staying with Houston. And Banny is, I had the opportunity to interview him a few years back. He knows his shit. Mm-hmm. Like, he is a good person to be an individual coach because he knows what's going on.
He's individual coach for Justice. I was right.
Oh, he has gone to Justice. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
There you go.
He still knows his stuff. Like, he's... I'm excited to see what Justice is going to look like this next season.
Well, we'll talk about it a little bit later on.
Yeah.
Other retirements, we have Envy, who has retired after being dropped by, I have Toronto in my notes, but Shanghai, and pretty much the unanimous consensus by people in the know and also the community at large is just no team wanted to pick him up due to the attitude issues that have been reported over the course of Overwatch League's life, which is why they let him go from Valiant, and then from Toronto, and then Shanghai.
And that's the thing. It doesn't matter how good you are. If you're not a pleasant person to work with, and if you throw off the teamwork, you're not going to be on the team for long.
Oh, yeah. And, like, just to show how bitter some of that bad blood is, like, when he announced his retirement on Twitter, Silkthread, who was, on Valiant initially at the start of...
Season
1, pretty much just tweeted back. I think it was literally just good riddance. Yeah.
I was like, oh, buddy. Oh.
Yeah. So Envy is out. I'll talk about the other retirement in a moment, but we've also had two players kind of drop down a tier to contenders. Taimu has dropped down off of the Dallas Fuel main roster to play for Team Envy, which he did of his own volition. Well, the thing is, it kind of goes back to, well, tying back into Season 1 Valiant for a second. All the players on the quote-unquote sister team that Valiant had at the time were talking about how demoralizing it was and how frustrating it was. And one of the people there, Numlocked, who is a main tank player, formerly for the Valiant, after he got cut, he went back into contenders and has been on record a bunch of times saying that, like, going back to contenders and competing again did so much for my mentality and my skill as a player and my development. I absolutely think that going and competing in contenders is better for you as a player than sitting on the bench in the Overwatch League. And Timer has pretty much said, yeah, I can either sit on the bench for another season or I can go and play again and then try and earn my way back in and prove that, I'm not washed.
Yeah.
Plus,
there's a little less stress on contenders than there is in the full-on league.
Yeah.
Just a little.
And speaking of Finnish people who played for the Dallas Fuel, RCK has signed with HSL Esports, a Contenders EU team, and is playing with them now. And speaking of Contenders EU, we do have kind of the end of an era thing. Team Giganti, leaves the Overwatch scene, dropping all of its players. Team Giganti was a big, long-standing name in European contenders, perennially in the top, 3 to 4, and developed a lot of talent that have become familiar names for fans of Overwatch. Fraggy, Shaz, Big Goose, Rippa, and LH Cloudy on the Gladiators. Masa
Some
from
on the Gladiators. Half of them are gone.
No?
From the Gladiators?
Shaz, Big Goose, Rippa, and
They're no longer on the Gladiators.
LH Cloudy is on Gladiators.
Rippa and Shaz aren't.
Oh, yeah.
I named a litter of kittens after them, and then they got traded, and I'm like, oh god, what?
Wait, I don't remember Shaz.
Pretty sure
Shaz is still here.
Rippa left, though, didn't he?
Yeah, he was.
Rippa's gone.
Yeah, he was 2A. Shaz is still here. Shut up.
Look, I had 5 kittens, and only one of them was still on the Gladiators at the end of the season, and I was like, shit. It's not Surefour. It's not Roar.
Yeah, so Shaz, Big Goose, LH Cloudy, formerly Rippa from Gladiators. Masa from Atlanta Reign. Former players from Florida Mayhem, Zappis and Zupe. Zappis, who retired after Giganti disbanded. Zupe, who is still active, now playing with, I think, Nairiki Esports. Linkser from the Houston Outlaws. World Cup standouts, Leaf, Lilbo, and Visility. Former Dallas Fuel and Boston off-tank / DPS, RCK. The chronically overlooked Davin, who the fact that he never got a shot in Overwatch League is a goddamn crime.
Is he retired now?
He said he was taking a break because you could tell that, like, no one giving him a shot, like, really bothered him. And then he was talking a bit about coaching, and then Giganti disbanded, and he's like, I need a minute.
Yeah.
And finally, Coach Seta of the Paris Eternal.
So why did they disband? Do we know?
The parent organization just decided they just didn't want to do it.
So it was like Gladiators dropping Sentinels then? Just a full-on bye, Felicia.
Well, sort of, although the difference is it's not an org dropping, like, an aspect of... So... Overwatch League is very unique in a lot of esports in that the organizations and sort of teams can sometimes exist independent of each other. For a lot of the time, there are names in esports like, Team Envy, which, owns the Dallas Fuel, but they also have teams in Counter-Strike, Call of Duty, a bunch of other games. Immortals, who owns the Valiant, they have teams in a whole bunch of other games.
Yeah.
This would be the equivalent of one of those guys saying, like, yeah, we're done with Overwatch.
Wow.
It would be the parent organization that funds the team.
Okay.
Being like, we're done.
Wow.
Yeah, and they were a thing for almost 3 years at this point in the Overwatch scene, and they were a successful team that developed a lot of talent. So it's kind of a shame.
So that makes absolutely no sense to me that they would just...
I haven't...
Finances, I assume?
It might be. I don't really know. There hasn't been too much that's come out about it, or at least not that I've seen. So, we'll report on that more should more news on that front come up. It's just something I felt like drawing attention to because I feel like a lot of the teams and contenders get overlooked despite how much comes out of them over the course of their lifetime, and how much teams that have made a big name contribute to the Overwatch League as a whole. Because, like, as another example, look at Runaway. Runaway produced the entire Vancouver Titans talent pool. Mm-hmm. A whole bunch of other players who have gotten picked up over the course of the off-season, namely Lee Jae-gon, Gangnam Jin, Hisu, Shui. There's a bunch of players. Yeah, Contenders doesn't get enough recognition for the breeding ground of insane talent that it is, or as much support as it deserves to sort of be the underpinning that makes this scene keep developing and growing.
I wonder if Contenders is going to continue to be on Twitch.
I would really doubt it, considering it seems like all of the other
Esports leagues?
The other esports, like, stuff that Blizzard has direct control over is going to YouTube as well.
That would make sense.
Yeah. All right. So now into the Atlantic Division's various updated rosters. Starting with the Northern Conference, we have the Boston Uprising. They have the tank front line of Fusions, Brusen, Axiom, DPS players in Color Hex, Munchkin, and Jerry, and then Myunbong and Swimmer bringing up the backline and on support.
Good on Swimmer Overwatch.
Yes, well, honestly, I'd say that Myunbong and Swimmer are like the part of this team that I'm the most optimistic about in terms of quality, just straight up. Yeah, they're really good players. Myunbong was on a Korean team called O2 Blast, performed very, very well. He's nutty on the flex support. Swimmer is also very good mechanically, capable of doing those really flashy kind of Lucio plays, and is, has experience playing on a team. The front line is kind of uneven for me. I think Fusions, I think the Plat Chat roster review is a little more down on him than I am personally. But yeah, Axiom, I feel like was has potential to be good, but I don't see him competing with like the best players in his position. Whereas Brusen is a bit more of an unknown quantity. He is talented and he's done well in Contenders, but we'll see what he can do with the jump up in competition that he's going to be facing. But the thing to me is the weakest part of this is the DPS lineup.
That's not good.
Yeah, because Jerry hasn't really done much. Munchkin has not impressed me in any of the teams that he's been on over the course of Overwatch's life. And Color Hex, I think, is average.
I honestly, for most of these rosters, because most of them have changed so much, I'm going to be doing a lot of withholding judgment until we can start seeing them play. What, next week? Week after next? Soon.
Yeah, soon.
No, that's France. Anyway, we are coming off of a season where Boston started off extremely strong and then tanked extremely hard. And we had that failed trade to the Valiant where they were going to hand fusions over. So who even knows at this point? I can see them trying to rebuild after that with people that they know work and new people that they hope will work. But I think it'll be, for me, I think it's going to be an exercise in team cohesion.
Yeah, and I'll be real, at this point, I have a lot less faith in Boston's system coming out of 2019 than I did coming out of 2018.
Yeah, I mean, 2019, we saw it crash and burn super hard after, but also, didn't it crash and burn after the meta change? Or it was already starting to when they started playing more somber goats?
I would say that playing more somber goats is an indicator that you are not as strong on goats as maybe you should have been. But I think that basically I think that the meta change really exposed existing problems because a lot of the people that Boston had were good at goats.
True.
And so...
And let's be real, the first parts of season 2 were can you goats or not? And there was a dividing line.
Yeah, and even then, Uprising was kind of middle of the pack.
Yeah.
And if you're middle of the pack at a meta that is easy to be competent at, but hard to be good at, with a bunch of players who have previous experience in it, even if not all of them did. And, you know, there were obviously some points of Boston's lineup that struggled in GOATs as a composition. I think that their strengths kind of overall helped a little bit on GOATs, and then when they came out of it, I think their weaknesses were exposed. There are coaching changes. We're gonna have Mineral, who was the former coach of Florida Mayhem, but was also the coach of Misfits beforehand. I really recommend
Florida.
I don't know how much faith I have, but I do recommend looking into. There were some podcast appearances he did, like after people went out of their way to who is the coach for Florida, like that kind of took over from Mineral.
You're asking me who the coach of a team is? Me?
Anyway, we've talked about this guy a bunch. I forget his name, but he was the former coach of Mayhem, who apparently, like, the whole situation was just a shit show. So I don't know how much of that can be laid at his feet. We'll see what he can do with this team, but I'm not holding my breath for a resurgent Uprising in the 2020 season.
You're not holding your breath for an Uprising from Uprising?
No.
For me, I got them pegged as wait and see. Again, there's been insane amounts of upheaval in this off season.
Oh yeah.
And we've also tried really hard to destroy dual tank meta just in terms of balance shifting. So we'll see.
Double shield.
Why did I say dual tank? Hi guys, it's been a long time and I'm very tired. Woo! Alrighty.
On to the London Spitfire, who you will
dropped Prophet, dropped Bird Ring.
Pretty much their entire roster except for Krillin.
Yeah, what the hell? They were pretty, they weren't the best last season, but they were pretty damn solid.
Yeah.
They've always been pretty good.
The thing is, with the previous iteration of the London Spitfires, when they played well, they were one of the best Overwatch teams in the world, but they were wildly inconsistent.
Yep.
I think with this team, it's an attempt to rebuild the roster on a lower budget because they picked up a lot of unknown names, which I'll go into right now. On the front line, J-Mac, Bernard, Jihun, and Kleston. Then on DPS, we have Glister, Babel, Shui, and Although. And then in the back line, Krillin, Fuse, Hylie, and Sanguinar.
So here's what I'm wondering. We're looking at a 12-man roster here.
Yes.
We haven't seen a 12-man roster since Soul, and Soul pulling that full-on roster switch at halftime. in late last stage, I want to say. Do we think that this might be what London is looking at? Two separate teams?
I think that it is a good idea just to have that because, one, if you can make it work, you'll have different looks that you can break out to kind of throw enemy teams off balance. But the other thing is that you can also have a team to practice with that you know that scrim data doesn't necessarily help someone else out. True. And give you a chance to keep players kind of in fighting shape should somebody be really ready to go. You know, should a meta kind of suit making a swap in your starting roster.
Or if someone punches a table and hurts their hand.
Yes. So basically, the people that I'm going to highlight for kind of the possible upsides here, JMac and Bernard are two tank players with a fair bit of experience. Bernard was on Fusion University, played with them for a long time. JMac was on I believe LGE Huya in Chinese Contenders, and they were very strong there. But the thing is, it's hard to say how much that prepares you for the level of competition you're going to see at the Overwatch League, because the thing is, with China, it's very hard to gauge how good a player is, because China plays weird Overwatch.
Yeah, I very much remember the hunters showing up and being like, fuck goats, we do what we want. Which was amazing.
Well, part of that was just because they didn't have a strong Rhine to start with, but China always has been a weird, scrappy region that I think can produce solid talent, but in my experience, the teams that came out of China were less well organized and cohesive, and basically they were less polished as units in a lot of cases. And there are a lot of weird habits and strategies in China that, don't necessarily translate well outside of that bubble.
You told me about that one team, I think it was in Contenders, where they had like 6 random characters and played through, and that was what they did.
Oh, well, there was a team that did like that. I'll talk about them at some point, but there was one that had like Doomfist, Roadhog, and a couple other. Well, I think. Well, oh no, that you're thinking of Clockwork Vendetta, and they're from Europe.
Oh, well, never mind then.
Yeah, but Clockwork Vendetta, they were, they pretty much met on ladder and then just played it through. But they played the heroes they one-tricked at and figured out how to make them work together. China just does weird things and sees what sticks. They've got more like team-based pocket strategies than a lot of other regions, so it's hard to know how good JMac is just because the competition was weird, and you don't necessarily know how that evens out.
Yeah.
Bernard, I think he's a little above average. But when Fusion University went over to Korea, they struggled big time. They were dominant to a ridiculous level in NA Contenders, and then struggled a lot in Korea. So we'll see what he's capable of here. But that performance doesn't inspire a tremendous amount of confidence. For my money, the high point on this team is Glister. He is a nut on DPS. Definitely, I think someone with like the pop-off potential of like an Erster or along those lines. A lot of these guys I don't know too much about. Shui was on Runaway and he looked good, but the thing is, at that point in time, it was GOATS meta, so we don't really have a great idea of what he can do in that DPS role. I think he's more of a projectile.
I feel like GOATS meta is one of the weirdest, most specific metas we've had in Overwatch. And again, I only really started paying attention to the meta when Dive was starting to be on its way out. And then we introduced Brigitte and Dive was gone. Which, I don't miss Dive, let's be real. But I feel like just goats was so weirdly specific because for dive, for double shield, for whatever, and all of the weird conglomerations that we've had in between, you could at least do something if you were a DPS player. It may not be what you specialized in, but at least you were still playing your same class. Goats was just, who needs DPS? And it was weird.
Yeah, it was definitely, it had the least flexibility in terms of the roster. But
And
yeah,
my god, it was boring to watch on a new to intermediate player level.
I've said,
We've done this before. I know as an
expert,
expert, it's fascinating, but I'm not an expert.
I've said my piece on it. But yeah, Shui, projectile player, kind of the usual thing of like Genji, Pharah, Junkrat. So we'll see how good he is at those and sort of what the meta requires him to do of them.
Because Genji, Pharah, Junkrat are all pretty meta-specific here. Well, Genji you can tend to pull out in a tight situation, but Pharah and Junkrat tend to be pretty specific.
Yeah, but it's the default projectile DPS heroes.
True.
So then support line Krillin, Fuse, Hylie, and Sanguinar. Krillin and Hylie are the people we have like Overwatch League data for, and in my opinion, they were okay. That was it. Like, they didn't really impress, but I don't think they did anything horrifically wrong either. But the thing you've got to think about is, in a lot of ways, like, flex support is the most stacked role in all of Overwatch at the league level. Because think about it. You've got Jonak, you've got Twilight, you have Violet, you have, Jaehong, though I don't think he's going to be getting a lot of starting time now.
We've got all sorts of terrifying humans on flex support because you can basically treat your flex as another DPS if you're solid. We see that with Jonak the murder bot.
Yeah, so I think okay.
And I mean, Kariv.
Yeah, and Kariv. I don't know that I'd put him at the same level as those initial three, but he's definitely really good and helps make my point of, if you don't have a really strong flex DPS, you are ceding some firepower to the other team. Flex DPS, flex support.
Let's be real, they are.
Yeah. Little
I thought you were making a goof.
No, little Freudian slip there. That was unintentional.
It's a good goof.
Yeah. And Fuse, I think he played on Stormquake, which is a Korean contenders team. Sanguinar, I know nothing about.
So basically we're going through these rosters and going, this is a maybe, this is a question mark, this one's up in the air.
Yeah.
When we get to Toronto, we're going to have more to say.
Yeah, with Boston, I can pretty safely say that I think that with Boston and London, though, I feel pretty safe in saying that by and large, the rosters that they have right now are a downgrade from what they had before.
Yeah.
NYXL, though, I think has made a bit of an upgrade.
They've also kept half their people.
Yes.
Which is a rarity.
Yeah,
in
this offseason. So Mono still at main tank, but Meko was let go. Mm-hmm. They now have Hatba, getting him from the charge, and they picked up Bianca, who has played for a bunch of different teams, but a very, very solid off tank. They picked up Who Are You, which this is one of the signings that when the age limit for the Overwatch League was announced was like, when does he turn 18? Yeah, he was one of that, like, in the pre-Overwatch League days, there were a bunch of, like, Genji Wunderkinds that, like, decimated other teams and were incredible on DPS. He's very similar to Haksal, though I think I'd give Haksal a bit of an edge, like A to A minus or B plus. Very strong player, still had a lot of time with Fusion University. He's still sharp, still very good. And also with him on DPS, Nene, Libero, Sabiel B. They've got Jonak and Animo in the backline, and pick up Mondu, who I think was O2 Blast as well. And yeah, you can tell how many teams I've had to be like to refresh my memory on.
Yeah. Well, again, we're picking up a whole bunch of new people, so.
Okay, yeah, Mondu was, yes,
Underage.
O2 Blast.
Okay.
Which O2 Blast is a team that recently did a lot to make a name for themselves in Korean contenders. Um,
He's not going to be able to play until June.
It's true, but he's a flex support player, and I think, or a main support player, and they have Animo in there, so
Okay.
I don't think it's going to hurt them. But he's a talent they can be developing for later, and potentially, sell if they develop him to a spot where he's good, but they still decide they
won't use
prefer
him.
Animo.
In much the same way that Sleepy was let go from Shock just because he wasn't getting played in the meta.
Yeah. So
Which I don't think he's been picked up for this season.
I don't believe he has.
God, that makes me sad. He's so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Pick up Sleepy, you nerds. Drop all the rest of your roster, but no one picks up Sleepy. I'm biased. NYXL is also one of those teams where they're on most of the time, but we've also seen them fall flat on their faces.
Yeah. I will say, though, I think right now this roster is an upgrade from what they had before. I think this is probably the strongest roster they've had, and I think they can really make a run for the title this season. I think they look really good.
You think Who Are You is a good replacement for Pine? And I say that with Pine having not played at all last season. Oof.
I do, because I think they have very strong hit scan capability in Nene and Sabiel B. I think Who Are You is better at flex DPS things than Libero is. But so basically, when you need a Doomfist or you need a Genji or you need a Pharah, Who Are You? You can have him play and be really, really good. He's one of those people who I think will be very useful throughout a bunch of different metas, and is very strong in a way that Pine was very specialized.
Because Pine was full on sniper, basically.
Yeah. And then you can have Libero do what is needed based on, what he can do or what comps they practice and whatever they get from scrims. Yeah, I don't really see a big weakness on this team.
All right. It's the first glowing positive review we've had so far.
Well, I think it's the first, we'll have another one before this is done. Up next, Paris Eternal. Few changes here. They dropped LH Cloudy. They picked up No Smite from Hangzhou. They picked up Hanbin and Sparkle from Element Mystic, Hanbin being an off-tank and Sparkle being DPS. But going back to the tanks, they still have Ben Best, and they have picked up Smex. In the DPS role, as I mentioned, Sparkle, but they also have XC, Soon, and Nico. I don't know.
Nico.
Yeah, I don't even bother to try. Nico, GDH, whatever. And on the back line, they have Hip or Hype or Heap.
HYP. Who even knows?
I've never gotten a consistent answer on that. Cruz, Gray, and FD God. So
Did they have FD God last season?
No, I think FD God's new. I'm pretty sure FD God's new.
Because I don't recognize that name. And usually if they've been in the league in any capacity, I've recognized the name.
I know
Contenders. Okay.
Yeah, I knew he played on Young and Beautiful for a while, and he was on Team France this year. He's a pretty solid main support player. But yeah, Paris Eternal, this is another team where I'm not sure how this is going to go, because I'm not high on Ben Best after the previous season. I think really, I don't think he's particularly strong on main tank compared to the average in the league. I think that No Smite and Hanbin, because Hanbin is going to be available to play within, I think, a week and a half of the start of the league.
Yeah, still the first stage.
Yeah, I think No Smite and Hanbin are probably going to be their start once Hanbin is available, but I think No Smite's average. Smex I like, but I don't know how he's going to compare to a lot of the off-tanks in the league. I think he has the potential to be good, but I don't think he's going to blow anyone's minds.
I mean, let's be real. Paris had like two standout players last year, and they don't seem to have changed that. We'll see how the new ones go, but
Well,
this has kind of been a middling roster anyway,
Sparkle is an incredibly talented DPS who I think is a really big pickup.
who they will have 3 months into the season.
Exactly. He's not coming in until May 31st. So right
Is
now,
that contract issues or visa?
no,
or...
he's 17.
I was wondering.
So XC, Soon, and Nico are the DPS they have to work with. And XC and Soon pretty much have the same hero pool for the most part.
Oh,
And Nico, I think, is not on the same level as the other flex DPS in the Overwatch League. So I think having him as half of your DPS duo puts you at a firepower disadvantage compared to a lot of other teams. I think their backline is still relatively solid. Like
Yeah.
Cruz is a really good,
regardless of what Dogman says.
yeah. Cruz absolutely does do some stupid things that get him killed sometimes.
But who doesn't
Yeah.
in this league?
It's true.
Everyone does
It's true.
dumb shit. It's just a matter of whether you wind up on you hate to see it.
Yeah. But I think he's a great voice he's great for the mentality and cohesion of the team.
Yeah.
But basically, this to me kind of comes down to I think their tank line is weak. I think their DPS line is weak until Sparkle comes of age. And then you're betting on Sparkle having the same level of performance that he had with an all-Korean team that he's been playing with for a long time, as opposed to a mixed roster that he, hasn't gotten to know that well. And if you're not going to have him until May, I imagine you're not going to scrim him all that much in the early stages because you are going to need all the help you can get at getting your roster to max strength.
And we've already talked about and had interviews about and whatnot how just going up to the league itself is a culture shock.
Yeah.
Regardless of what team you go to, just stepping up into the Overwatch League itself is a whole different set of expectations. So there's also dealing with that.
And don't forget, teams are going to have travel.
Yeah. Oh, God.
It's going to cut into their ability to scrim and practice. So being on a team that has a good system, is going to be so important because basically if your team can function on a coherent level, if they're ready to rock, even if they're not as polished at the metagame as they could be, that goes a really long way towards just winning games when basically no one's going to be at 100% of the practice that they could have.
Yeah. And I mean, travel really takes it out of you.
Oh, yeah.
It hacks you up something awful.
Yeah.
And the international travel and time zones and being on the completely opposite side of the planet and just this is gonna be really rough, just logistically and on players. And I honestly think we are going to see more players getting sick, taking long leaves of absence for illness, for mental health reasons, because for one, traveling wears you down physically.
Oh, yeah.
And for another, it's just you're already doing pro athlete level stuff. Most of them are young.
Yeah.
Under 20 or at 20. Like, it's... Yeah, I just logistically, I have a lot of worries about the players doing that much traveling.
Yeah, and I think it is something to be concerned about, and especially for the Paris Eternal, who needs to overcome the hurdle of having a mixed roster when their Korean players have really not had a mixed roster prior to this.
It's a matter of needing essentially a Bishu on the team, of having someone who is able to do both and translate on the fly.
And so basically you have, I think the European side of the roster is largely underpowered in their roles, where the Korean parts could be, above average, and in the case of Sparkle, really good. But the thing is, you don't know how well they're going to gel with this unfamiliar roster that they don't have as much time to get acclimated with.
And they shot call in English, right?
I would assume, yes.
Yeah,
Because
so...
I don't know if that... I assume it's going to be English because at present you're going to have 2 Koreans on the field versus 4 Europeans, so...
Oh, I mean versus shot calling in, French.
Well, I'm pretty sure it's English.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think Paris Eternal is going to struggle.
So nothing has changed.
No.
Okay.
Toronto Defiant has changed
My
a lot.
new team.
They've become the new Outlaws.
A lot of very popular people.
Yes.
Yeah, no, everything's on sale at Fanatics right now because they've got the new merch deal. So I'm debating picking up a Toronto jersey while things are on sale because again, my new team.
Yeah. It's I'm going to be a dick, and I'm going to say a team full of a lot of very popular people that I don't think they're going to be in the top 10.
I don't know, man. We'll see how we'll see how well they gel, honestly.
Yeah. So on your front line, you have Beast, formerly known as Beast Halo, formerly of Fusion University. And you have Nevix, who was the off-tank for the San Francisco Shock. On your DPS line, you have Agilities, Surefour, and Logix with Mangachu on a 2-way contract.
Which, can we just take a step back and look at that? Holy shit.
Yeah, I think it was his request on the 2-way, but...
I mean just this DPS line in general. Holy shit.
It's solid. Though I do think they're going to struggle with flexibility depending on where the meta goes.
Yeah.
And your backline, you have Roki on a 2-way contract, and you have Kariv and Kellex, formerly of the Los Angeles Valiant and the Boston Uprising, respectively.
God bless. So yeah, I can see this. And part of it is definitely because they have Surefour and they have Team Gamer Snacks, and I got real upset when they were let go of their respective Los Angeles teams, and very happy when they wound up on the same place. And again, this was in the leaks that we got. Thank you, Costa. But yeah, for me, it's really going to depend on how they gel, because this is a high level of talent. And this is a lot of well-known people. So I think they're going to draw a big fan base anyway. But it's really going to depend on how well they all gel as players. And for the most part, almost all of them are league experienced.
Yeah, it's pretty much only Beast who isn't at this point.
And if it's just the one person, it's a little easier to bring them up than it is if it's half the team.
Yeah, but the thing is, on main tank, that can be an issue, because if your front line collapses, that's going to be a problem. And while he did, while he was dominant when Fusion University was in NA, he pretty much got benched after they picked up Chongshik. So I don't know how he'll do against the higher level of competition he's going to face in the Overwatch League. And I said it that way because, yes.
Take a shot every time we say that. Just take a shot. And make sure you drink plenty of water, because we're going to be saying that a lot.
So I think he's a question mark for me. I think Nevix is above average, though not necessarily like the S tier. I think he's definitely going to be good for this team.
I was going to say he's Nevix, but he's not Choi Hyobin.
Yeah. Well, Choi Hyobin is quite possibly the best off-tank in the world right now.
This is true. Choi is a good.
Yes. Agility, Surefour, and Logix. I'm a little less high on this than you are, though I do think it's it's above average. I just think that Agilities is very feast or famine. Mm-hmm. So with him as really your only flex support player, with Mangachu mostly going to be on the 2-way contract and thus not usable, that I think has the potential to detract from your team's overall firepower here.
But I think this is also going to be, what are we looking at for this meta? Are we still walking in here with dual shield, or because of the nerfs to Sigma and Orisa, are we going to start looking at a different meta sometime soon?
Oh, yeah.
And it depends on what patch they're playing on, but we might.
It's true, but I'm just saying on the heroes he's really known for.
Yeah.
He's feast or famine.
It'll just be nice to see him out of brig jail.
Yeah. Again, very, very nice guy who I like quite a bit, but on Brigitte, he was not agilities, he was liabilities.
Yeah, no, again, Goats was weird.
Logix is a 100% hit scan specialist, so I think really your starting lineup is going to be agilities and Surefour.
I'm okay with that.
It is not bad. It is not bad at all. I just don't think it has the same level of firepower in any combination that some other teams do.
Yeah.
I think it's above average, but it's not like... There are some teams where you see the DPS lineup and you're like, yeah, they can go toe to toe with anyone and,
Come out ahead.
and yeah, slug it out evenly or come out ahead pretty much whenever. This lineup, I'm less confident in that.
But we also haven't seen them work. This is patchwork from
Yes.
a bunch of different teams. So we've seen them all work within their respective teams.
Yeah.
I will be intrigued to see how well they work together. And it's the same thing I said for Boston.
Mm-hmm.
It's all going to depend on team cohesion for this one.
Yeah. Yeah, with Toronto Defiant, I'm more optimistic than I am with Boston. I think that their average level of talent is significantly higher than Boston's, but I do think it's maybe not quite enough to carry them into that, real, we can see them being, contenders against the top tier teams.
Yeah.
I think middle of the pack is the optimistic placement for this, provided that all the pieces kind of come together.
And I think we're staring down the barrel of a meta shift.
Yeah,
So
there's
we'll
definitely
also see
yeah.
what happens there. Because it always goes insane when a new meta starts.
Yeah, there's definitely
When they
been
threw in Brigitte, everyone lost their goddamn minds.
Yeah,
Which
there-
I kind of liked,
Yeah.
honestly.
There's definitely been a lot of talk about what the new meta potentially will be. So yeah, that's the Northern Conference of the Atlantic Division, with I think NYXL being the only team that I would say is really, really strong out of that lineup.
But they were really strong to start with, and they kept most of their strong
Yes.
players. So they already had a leg up on everyone.
Yeah, and I think they upgraded a little bit as well.
Yeah. But again, your NYXL is already a really good team,
Mm-hmm.
so it's easier to recruit the top tier players because they're like, hey,
Yeah.
we've been consistently good, come join us, as
Yes.
opposed to going to Toronto, middle of the road, or a
Yeah.
lot of the middle of the road or lower tier teams, I would imagine would have some trouble recruiting because it's like, do I want to be on Florida?
Well-
Florida's had some trouble.
Yeah, there's that, and there's also the fact that, towards the start of the offseason, there was a lot of talk about teams trying to adopt more of a Moneyball approach of trying to get to scout unknown talent for relatively low money.
Which I feel might also factor into the increased costs for moving to your home city for everyone who isn't the Valiant and the Gladiators.
Yeah.
And travel.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah. But again, what do I know about the behind the scenes? Only what gets leaked to me.
Yeah. So, moving on to the Southern Conference,
Yes.
starting off with the Atlanta Reign. Their front line, they still have Pokebo. They released Daco. They have Gator full-time now. He's no longer two-way. They picked up Hawk from Atlanta Academy, and they still have FRD. Their DPS line, they kept Erster and Baby Bay.
Boy, I would hope they kept Erster.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
They picked up Edison and Sharp. Edison being from GC Busan Wave, I believe, and Sharp playing for Team Envy and a couple other people. He's been around for a long time.
Okay.
And the back line remains Masa and Dogman.
Who is a feeder?
He-
Look,
he-
I will be a shitbird
yeah.
forever.
He improved a lot, and definitely is better on the Moira than he is on the Zen. In terms of not blowing his ultimate.
Ooh.
It's his trans timings were awful. They got better, but they were still bad. So this is the other team that when I'm like, this is going to get a glowing review here, because Gator and Hawk are, I think, the best straight up NA tank line that you can really import. They work together very well. Gator's a great lead from the front, shot caller, main tank. And the thing about him and Hawk is they don't give a fuck. They are really aggro, and they will go into your house, they will go into your fridge, and they will drink your damn beer right in front of you. They don't give a shit.
So we have a pair of bumpers.
Yes.
Oh dear.
But they work well and cover each other's backs well. And the thing is, in terms of other pickups that work out really well for them, Edison is fucking crazy. Edison is awesome. Erster and Edison behind them, where you've got these two really aggro guys who will create chaos and can use that to murder you. versus two lethal DPS who will absolutely use that chaos to murder you. And then Masa, who is great at, moving people out of position to make them vulnerable and getting his teammates where they need to be. He's good at what you need a Lucio to do. And Dogman, who is... He is a solid hand.
So would you say for this team that Edison was a better pickup than Defran? Just in terms of skill, leaving behind everything else.
That's hard to say, because Defran, in terms of his mechanics, might literally be the best player in the world.
Well, fuck.
But I think Edison is a really good pickup that adds a lot of firepower to this team. And Baby Bay and Sharp are great players that you can sub in as needed. I think that Atlanta Reign upgraded, and I think that they're definitely in that top 5 in terms of just the power their power level on paper.
So it's another team cohesion one.
Well, the thing is, we know that
and it's mostly still Atlanta.
They play together well for the most part. Really, the only thing that would be totally different would be Edison, because Gator and Hawk played together extensively.
And you don't think they'll start Pokpo?
I think Gator and Hawk have so much synergy together
that it doesn't make sense to break it up with Pokpo to start?
Yeah, and I think Gator's also a better shot caller than Pokpo.
Okay,
I think he's a better in-game leader.
Also, I have to appreciate that we have Gator and Hawk in Atlanta.
Yes.
Just generally speaking, in terms of names.
Well, yeah,
I have to appreciate
that. Well, yeah,
that.
they have all the animal names. They have Gator, they have Hawk, and they have Dogman.
True. Are there no other animal? There's got to be other animals.
I know. I'm just saying there probably is, but it's let me just.
Yeah.
It's definitely the biggest concentration of them.
Of animal names, yeah.
Beast, you could make an argument for. You could make an argument for it, but I wouldn't give it to you.
Yeah, no, I think.
Ivy is a plant.
And I would say roar.
Well, if
Roar's as close as you get.
Well, I was going to say carpe, because that's one letter off from a fish. And
No.
And the fish thing was already a meme for him.
Oh, okay. Anyway, so
moving on.
Teams watch.
Florida Mayhem.
I can like Florida now because Bare Hands is gone.
It definitely makes me like them.
Kidding.
It definitely makes me like them more, but I don't know how much I really rate them as a team right now.
Have you seen Gargoyle Overwatch?
Here's the thing. Let me break this down here.
Let's do it. Let's go.
So, front line, Fate, Gargoyle, and Karayan. Your DPS lineup, Saya Player, BQB, and Yaki. And then with your backline, you have Chris, Byram, and Gangnam Jin. Gangnam Jin being from Runaway, he is a flex support. He's really good at Lucio.
Okay. I don't think I recognize Karayan.
He was on the team last year.
Wow. I'm good at this. See, I wasn't allowed to like them, so I didn't pay attention.
Yeah, he was one of the mid-season pickups when they... So here's the thing. One, I think that Fate kind of does his own thing as a main tank.
Yeah.
I don't think he's in step with his team, and it seems like a lot of the time his former teammates have agreed with that. Gargoyle and Karayan, I think Gargoyle has potential. I'm not super high on Karayan. And the thing is, Gargoyle, we've only really seen him do 2 off tanks to a competent level, and it's mostly been as Roadhog.
Yeah. So
you have Roadhog, but nothing else we can really put stock in. And the team that they were on prior to this, to joining Florida, WGS Armament, was kind of bottom of the barrel consistently in Korean contenders.
So they went from bottom of the barrel to bottom of the barrel.
There's a reason I jokingly referred to Florida's strategy as bargain bin Koreans.
Oh, come on. Woof.
I said it a bunch of times last season.
Woof.
Your DPS lineup, you have Saya Player, you have BQB, and you have Yaki.
Saya's pretty solid.
Saya is. And so is Yaki. The thing is, their hero pool overlaps quite a bit. Mm-hmm. And BQB, is not really impressive. People, when he got signed, people talked a lot about his Sombra and how good it was. But can you really say it stood out to you watching the games?
No.
So basically, you have two good DPS players. I think Yaki's got a little more range to what he can do than Saya Player. And I think Saya Player is better at his specific things. Yaki's probably better at more things. But you have a sniper specialist in Saya Player and a guy who's known mostly for his hit scan in Yaki. So a lot of overlap. And then you have a third person who's mostly known for a hero that he didn't stand out on.
Woof.
Then your backline, I think the big thing to be optimistic about is Gangnam Jin. I think he's a very talented player who can add a lot. Chris and Byram, I would put below average for their position.
So the best thing about Florida this season is their new colors.
I would say the best thing is Gangnam Jin, but yeah.
Let's be real, I really like those new colors, though.
They're nice.
I can appreciate that they released their third jersey in Miami Vice colors. Everyone lost their shit, and Florida went, people can either call us Miami Vice, and we can lean into this, or we can keep being McDonald's, or the opposite of Shanghai. So let's do our own thing, and lean into this fairly unique color scheme.
Yeah.
And it was a great marketing move.
Yeah, and
The one color change that I really super approve of.
Yeah, no, I really like it a lot as well. But yeah, for the Mayhem, I don't think this roster has a lot of upsides. Thing is, people will point out to their performance at the tail end of last season and be like, hey, that's reason to be optimistic. But at the same time, it was right after a meta shift, and then the further you got from that initial start,
Yeah.
it was...
After the chaos settles.
Yeah, and the other thing is, let's look at who they played in that last stage. Because that
tells you a lot, honestly.
Yeah, so over the course of that, Florida played Vancouver, which they lost.
Well, yeah.
They played
Justice.
Washington, which they went 3-2 with.
They lost in a map 5.
Then they played London, which London was kind of in shambles at that point.
And then Toronto, who they beat.
Yeah, they beat Toronto. And also with London, London never makes sense with who they win and lose to. They lost to Valiant. They
Admittedly, by that point, Valiant was picking up.
Oh yeah, they beat out Boston, but everyone was doing that.
Yeah, at that point, Boston was just dying.
They beat Boston. They beat Toronto twice. Mm-hmm. Basically, the only thing that I would say would potentially stand out as being a result that showed a big improvement was being close to the Justice, who were on fire at that point.
Yeah,
and
because
then
that was also that was 2 days before the Justice 4-0'd Vancouver.
Yeah, and
I
then
remember watching that.
Yeah, and then beating London, but like we said, London kind of flip-flops in quality anyway. So they didn't really beat anyone that wasn't kind of at the bottom anyway.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of a false positive in terms of indicating a big upswing.
Yeah. So we'll see. Not hopeful, but we will still see.
Mm-hmm. Up next, Houston Outlaws.
My boys.
Frontline, Muma Spree, and new pickup Mecha, with Coolmad stepping down for his as-of-yet undisclosed behind-the-scenes role. Linkser and Dante, with new DPS pickups Blase and Hydration. I forgot Hydration on the notes.
How could you forget Hydration?
Yeah, I feel bad for that, especially because he's so fucking good. And I
You
also
have to
really
stay
like him.
hydrated.
Yeah. Anyway, in the back line, we have Boink, Raucus, Repel, and Jexay. So, I think this team upgraded quite a bit.
Yeah.
I think Off-Tank and their backline were kind of the weakest points in the team in terms of just their overall individual level of play. I think Spree and Coolmat were specialists, and I think Coolmat, in terms of just the level of play, had kind of fallen off a bit towards the end there. So I think having Meko, who's a pretty steady hand, is definitely a positive, even if I think he's a little passive sometimes.
Yeah, but then you're also working with Muma and Spree. So
Yeah. On DPS, I think having Blase and Hydration, I don't think Blase adds a tremendous amount. I think he's good, but I don't see him as better at anything than the other three that they have. But it's good.
But
It's
Hydration is a fucking powerhouse.
It's good to have a backup. I don't think he necessarily hurts the team in any real way. And I think having Hydration, Linkser, and Dante is very scary and gives you a lot of flexibility to kind of wrap around between stuff, especially when Linkser is on, because we know he can be a little bit streaky.
Linkser is really good with open maps.
Yes.
When they start moving into more, I just keep thinking of Junkertown. Like the first two areas of Junkertown, he runs train, and then you hit point 3, and it just screeches to a stop. But I also just hate Junkertown as a map. But it's the same with, you give Linkser an open area, and he will just wipe the floor with you.
Although there definitely are some times where he just doesn't show up in the way that we know that he's capable of.
Yeah. He's off and on.
Yeah, I do agree with your assessment. I do want to point out that the streakiness is not just necessarily based on the map.
Yeah.
And
But I mean, most sniper players are at their best with open maps.
Yeah.
Just generally speaking, because that's how you play that kind of character.
Yeah. And finally, I think that Repel and Jexay are big upgrades over Boink and Raucus.
We still have Raucus.
I know.
Ouch. Oof.
I think the thing is, Raucus is much better on Ana and Moira than he is on pretty much anything else.
Yeah.
Where I think Jexay is a little more well-rounded as a player, and I think Jexay is a shot caller, which this team desperately needs, because we've
Now that
seen
we've
what
lost
happens
Jake.
when they don't have that.
And we've lost Jake.
Yeah.
Permanently.
Yeah.
I miss him on this team.
Yeah, I think Jexay is a better in-game leader and mechanically better on more heroes. I think Repel is just better than Boink at the main support stuff.
So you think Raucus will be rotated in for specific times?
I think it's possible.
Okay.
I think Jexay will be the starter, but I could see Raucus being brought in for specific things, whereas I don't really see a reason to see Boink in over Repel.
Okay.
So the other thing to point out is new head coach, which is they no longer have Tyrong, who...
True.
I'll be real, like, obviously a good chunk of the difficulties Outlaws can be facing comes down to the financial troubles that they had and the lack of resources. They got
last
hosed.
season.
But their coordination never got better. And that's one of the things that you need to be putting into your team as a coach at this level.
Yeah.
If you can't make that happen for 2 seasons in a row,
Then,
I'm sorry, but you're really not doing what the team needs you to do.
Yeah. So a lot of their problems were just...
I think resources, being underpowered in some specific roles, and having a coach like Harsha, who I have a lot more confidence in, who I think definitely has kind of proven himself a little more than Tyrong has in terms of just concrete results. I think you definitely have a lot to look out for in terms of the upside for the Houston Outlaws this next season.
All right.
I will say, at present, I think the weak spot is Muma.
Really?
I like Muma a lot as a person, but as a main tank, I think he's pretty low impact. And I think with main tanks, the teams that succeed are the ones who are good at landing their combos, and creating space, and also being able to make plays. I think Muma overall is okay at all of those things. I don't think he's a bad main tank, but I think when it comes to, I think he's middle of the pack.
Okay. I'm wondering if, because I'm looking at Muma from a different perspective, because you're the gameplay expert.
Yeah.
But Muma is one of 2 openly gay players in the Overwatch League.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm looking at this like, for the Outlaws, he brings in a lot of people on his own. I'm kind of looking at him in the same capacity that I'm looking at Geggery on the Shanghai Dragons. Like, you are bringing in someone who, for the most part, is unique in what they represent.
Yeah.
So, and I say openly gay because I'm sure that there are other players who are closeted for one reason or another, and that's their level of comfort. That's whatever they want to do.
Yeah.
But you have this person who, in terms of just fan base and eyes on you, brings a certain amount and a certain type of people with them. Can you afford to trade them? And it's one of the reasons that I think that Shanghai has hung on to Geggery despite not playing her, or playing her extremely little. Because if you trade Geggery, you're going to lose a ton of your fans because there are a lot of people following the only woman player in the league.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering for Outlaws, if you trade Muma for a different tank, how many people are going to drop you and go somewhere else because they are following one of 2 people who are their representation in the league.
Yeah, and
so I'm not trying to say like, oh, they're only there because X, because mascot potential. But I am saying that I think that's something that the teams look at in addition to skill set and skill level is we need to bring in this money for the organization to keep them going. And part of that is having fans who will do word of mouth and buy merchandise and whatever.
Yeah.
What do we lose if we lose this popular player?
Having players who are marketable and who speak to people and that people connect to is very important. I completely agree with that. I just think on a pure like pound for pound quality level, I think he is not as good as the rest of the team has sort of become.
Okay. Well, we will see how this turns out.
I would like to be wrong, but I've just never really been impressed with the results in the play that I've seen.
I have no argument. The Outlaws have always kind of been my middle of the pack team, and I love them.
So up next, to left, Philadelphia Fusion. At the main tank position, they have Sato. They have main tank Poco, and they got Fury from London.
Okay.
On DPS, they have Hisu, Ivy, Carpe, EQO, and Chipsa. And their backline is Boombox, Alarm, and Funny Astro.
Some new names.
Yeah, a lot of new ones. So, breaking down the new additions here. Hisu, also from Runaway, same situation as Shui, where what we've seen from them outside of the GOATS meta is somewhat limited, so I don't know to what level we're going to see him perform. He was good on Runaway, but he's not playing the same things now that he was going to be then. Ivy, I'll be real, Ivy never really impressed me a tremendous amount. I think he was a standout on Brigitte in the initial stages of the Toronto Defiance run. I'm confusing him with Stellar.
He really hasn't stood out to you, has he?
No.
So Ivy exists. We'll come back to him maybe. Chipsa?
The Chipsa thing is like, I don't like him as a streamer.
Oof.
He's very good at Doomfist, but he's a Doomfist one trick.
Ooh.
I think he's he is by his own admission.
Do we really think Doomfist is going to be that strong in the upcoming meta? Probably
not.
Oh boy.
So I think what's going to be said, and I think Christopher, the assistant coach for the Fusion, who I will also point out is Chips' brother.
Okay.
Has pretty much said
And
that
his handle is Christopher? Is that his name, too?
CRCHRIS capital T capital F ER.
Oh. I was like, holy shit, someone just used a relatively normal name in the Overwatch?
Jake.
This is true. This is true. Jake is the exception, though. It's like, he's just the one guy. Corey. There are so few of them, though. Tell me I'm wrong. You look at the Jonax of the world, and your name is 3 letters, and one of them's capitalized, and it's not the first one. The RCKs and the everything of the league, and then you sit there and you're like, Christopher, Jake, Corey.
Well, RCK is his initials.
Yeah, but it's still RCK, and the C is capitalized.
Also, Yu Jahong.
Really?
That's his name.
Go him.
Yeah.
So we're up to 4. Naming conventions in the league.
Yeah. So yeah, but basically we said that he brings audience to the team. He is incredibly talented on Doomfist to the level that a lot of other players, even in the Overwatch League, are not. So even on the bench, he brings a lot of knowledge for how that hero works on an in-depth level. And basically they have 4 really good DPS, so having an extra guy to be a specialist who can also add some things to the team from the bench and not necessarily be upset at not getting a ton of playtime makes him valuable to a degree, which, sure, that makes sense. I just feel like there are better people they could have picked up for that.
You're wondering if he's worth the spot.
Yes.
I mean, just in terms of having a specialist who won't be upset at not getting a ton of playtime, I think is huge in the league.
Yeah, but
It's hard to find players who bench warm for a while and don't get shirty about it.
yeah,
Which, legit.
I'm just not sure how much his presence is really going to add if he doesn't get that playtime.
You think we're staring down the barrel of nepotism?
It's possible. I don't think they're gonna play him in a situation where it's not good to play him.
No.
But
that foot in the door.
Yeah, I think, it maybe had some influence on things. I don't think he's a complete nepotism hire. I do see some of the purchase. It leaves a bit of a bad taste in my mouth, especially because there are so many people grinding in the lower tiers of Overwatch's competitive scene who would give their left nut for an opportunity on an Overwatch League team, who have been playing, in a competitive environment for years, and made a name for themselves that way versus a guy who, and I don't mean to dismiss his talent as a player, but he's a ladder one trick.
So you're not impressed?
I think he's very good at Doomfist, but I don't know how much he's going to bring to the table. I don't think he's necessarily costing the team a tremendous amount because I think Carpe and EQO are going to be your starters. But, and they're really good. But yeah, I don't see him adding a tremendous amount, and I kind of wish at least that opportunity went to someone who bled for this chance a little more.
You do think it's nepotism.
I don't want to discount it because I don't want to discount
because he is talented,
Yeah.
but he's talented in a very specific role in a very specific situation,
Yeah.
which isn't necessarily going to apply to most league play. You
Yeah.
think the money is better spent on someone a little more well-rounded.
Yeah, and I also just think it kind of makes the path to pro look a little bit clown shoes.
But Doomfist is barefoot. Yep. You're not going to dignify that, are you?
No. Anyway, like I said, Carpe and Ikyo are going to be your starters. They're very, very good, especially if you can have Carpe playing heroes that he's comfortable with.
Yeah.
I think their backline got a big upgrade. Alarm is a fucking nut. He's really, really good. He is a flex support that I think really has a chance of brawling it out with guys like Jonak or Twilight or Violet and
Damn.
holding his own.
Damn, that is high praise.
Yeah.
Would you say they find him alarming?
I certainly would if I was on the other team.
Hey.
And then Funny Astro is a really, really talented main support player. Very, very good Lucio, who I think at one point in the European ladder had spots 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6 on separate accounts.
I had this moment of how, but okay, if it's at different times.
No,
Also, damn.
at the same time.
How? That doesn't seem physically possible.
Some people have had like multiple accounts in the top 10.
Oh, multiple account. Okay, multiple accounts.
Yes, yeah, that was multiple accounts.
This is my main one, and the rest of them are just Smurfs, but they're all at the same level. The rest of them are Smurfs.
Yeah. Very talented, did very well with Atlanta Academy. Really, really good player. I think their backline went from, I think Boombox is average. I think he gets kind of outshone by the absolute monsters at his role in the Overwatch League, but I think he's a solid hand. I think Alarm brings a lot to the table, and I think Funny Astro is a definite upgrade over Neptuno, as much as I enjoy Neptuno.
All right.
I think having Fury, we're going to see less of Poco on the field.
Yeah.
But Fury is another one of those guys who's in the contention for, like, best off-tank in the world.
Yeah. So a good pick.
Yeah, I think Sado is still the biggest weak link on this team. I think that he's very good at Winston. I think his play on other main tanks needs work. And I think the other thing is I don't think he is as decisive as you need to be on main tank, because historically speaking, the best main tanks are pretty much the ones who can say, fuck it, I'm going in, here's the plan, and just go in, and their team is going to be behind them. Just be the tip of the spear.
The bumpers and supers of the world.
Yeah. Bumper, Super, Fisher,
Fisher, man.
But yeah, you don't even necessarily need to be like a hyper-aggressive tank. It's just you need to have a set of brass balls and not be afraid to be like, all right, fuckers, follow me. Like, that's what you need to do, and I don't think Sado does that. I don't think he is a bad player. I just don't think he has the qualities you need to be a top-tier main tank in this league. And if that... I think he kind of holds the team back a little bit.
I'm noticing a pattern in some of these that, like, everyone's great, but the main tank. It's happened more than once tonight.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things of where... In this section especially, Fusion's had a rough season.
Yeah.
JMac, we don't really know how he's going to perform because weird competition that,
Yeah.
Yeah. Mono, we know he's going to be good.
Mono is mono.
No Smite didn't really impress, and Ben Best didn't impress. Beast got...
Relatively unknown.
Played very well in Contenders NA and then was benched for an extended period of time, and then his team, who performed just as well without him, struggled a lot in Korea. In Atlanta Reign, I think they've got two good main tanks in Pokebo and Gator. I think Florida Mayhem definitely kind of has that weakness. I think, Muma is a little weak on that front as well, but...
So there's like 3 whole main tanks that you approve of in the Atlantic Division.
Well, yeah,
a whole 3.
Yeah, the thing I think the Atlantic Division is just overall the weaker division.
Oh,
I mean,
stay tuned for next time when we talk about Pacific, and I really get loud.
Well, the thing is, like, look at the Atlantic Division overall, because if you look at the top, just look at the let's look at Season 2's overall standings real quick. Okay, so we have. In terms of your overall league standings, the top 5, all Pacific except for one.
NYXL.
Yeah. So the bottom 5 teams
Are
all Atlantic.
Oof.
The Pacific Division is stronger on average.
That said, and I think this segues well into our next thing, or our last team rather, in terms of teams that I think really have a shot, Justice. I think we saw some marked improvement at the end of last season. I think we've brought in even more good play, and we're moving away from, again, triple tank, triple support, which was murder for a lot of teams. So we got to see Corey and Stratus lose their goddamn minds.
Yeah.
And we've kept that DPS duo and added more. So let's talk about my other boys.
Yeah, Washington, I think, with Arkin, I'm less high on them than you are, but
Yeah, but that's okay.
it tends to be the way.
Look, when my friend asked me if I wanted to do a team colors photo shoot, I have like 6 teams where this is an option. I wound up doing it in Justice colors.
All right.
And there are so many reasons for that, and we'll talk about that next time.
Yeah. Breaking it down now, Washington Justice, we have Lulzish, Elivote, and Roar in the front line. We have Corey, Stratus, and Tuba in the DPS spot. And then bringing up the rear, we have Ark and Aimgod. I'm going to just make sure they haven't added anyone else.
Because we let go of Sleepy for some unknown reason.
Yeah, I'll be real. I would have kept Sleepy over Aimgod.
Like, he just can't stay on a team. I don't know why.
I think it's one of those things where he's outclassed by a lot of people in that role.
I mean, he's solid, but for some reason, it's just he never really. I don't know why. It just doesn't seem to fit with a team.
Yeah,
I don't know why, but he's solid.
Yeah, he's solid, but again, I would say that he's.
But he's also got that full recommendation from the coach of the Shock.
Yeah.
So that's saying something.
Yeah,
Anyway, I miss Sleepy. I'm sad he's not on a team. He needs to be picked up.
Yeah, I would personally take Sleepy over Aimgod. No? I think Sleepy's better at the main support, flex support
He's
role.
flex.
Yeah, sorry. Flex support role with Moira.
I know very little, but I do know that.
Yeah. I think he's a better pick than Aimgod. So basically, I think the standout point of Washington, like you said, is the DPS line. I think Corey and Stratus are really, really strong. Tuba's a bit of a question mark. He has had some fine individual performances, but he's never really gotten much in the way of like big results with any of the teams that he's been with. Lulzish and Elivote, formerly of Angry Titans, tank duo that's played together for a long time, won Contenders EU. I like having them together. It's just another one of those times where I'm going to be like, we're going to see how they do against the best people in their roles in the world. Because obviously I don't think the Paris Eternal necessarily gave the best showing you could have for European talent last season. But
and I don't see Fraggy anywhere.
I know.
You okay?
No.
You gonna be all right?
No.
I'm sorry. Oh.
We'll
both be over here in the corner like my boys in orange. They can get picked up.
Nope.
Nope. But we've also got Roar.
Yeah, who Roar I think is above average. I think he has the same kind of problem as Sato in that he's not as decisive, even though I think he is mechanically better.
Okay, then Sato or then
Sato.
Okay.
I'm not sure if I would take him over Lulzish. I think I might put him as slightly better mechanically speaking, but Lulzish and Elivote have a shit ton of synergy, so we'll see what works better for the team. Like I said, Tuba, not really sure what's going to come out of him, and Aimgod, I again consider him to be average in the most stacked role in the league, which puts you at a bit of a disadvantage.
Yeah.
I think.
What does Tuba specialize in?
I think it's mostly projectile stuff. Like I remember him playing Genji, but whatever else. Yeah, Genji, Doomfist, Pharah, the usual projectile stuff.
So he would probably be a sub-in for specific instances.
Yeah.
Probably subbing out, you think, Stratus?
Yeah, because Corey's definitely more of your hit scan, and I think he's the guy. He's your big star DPS threat. I think that Stratus has a lot of overlap with Tuba, and I think it comes down to who's playing which necessary hero better.
I think, again, we're looking at players who have a lot of mass appeal. Stratus, meme god,
Yeah.
Overwatch. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, you don't get rid of the meme maker, the
No.
everyone knows that guy on your team, the sunglasses guy, the weird anime dude. Like, the Stratus Overwatch tends to be what people go to for Washington Justice. So
Yeah.
regardless of how much he plays in terms of Tuba, that was not a good sentence, but you know what I mean.
How much he plays in terms of Tuba.
Yes. Does Stratus play Tuba? Who knows?
Incoming on Twitter. Like,
Jesus Christ. Yes, that's exactly what I need. That is not what I need in any capacity, dear God. My point being, he's one of those attention getters.
Yeah.
And you need one of those on every team. You need at least one person where even the casual fans can go, oh yeah, that guy, with
Yeah.
the this.
yeah. And I think he and Corey definitely bring a lot of eyes to the team.
Yeah. And I think the two of them are a great DPS duo. And
Yeah.
Corey's terrifying.
Oh, God,
Once
yeah.
they let them out of Goat's jail, all bets are off.
Oh, yeah. Like, there's a reason people, myself included, were very excited when Corey was coming into the league.
Yes. And then they wound up on the bottom because fucking Goats, I swear to God.
Well, it was a
Goats
bad
was
lineup
hard.
for Goats with a coach who didn't seem to get it, and, yeah.
Rough times. But they had a good last stage, including 4-0ing the Titans, which, again,
Yeah.
I remember watching that match and screaming my face off, and my roommate being like, are you okay? Like,
Yeah.
well, no, for multiple reasons.
Yeah.
Because I watched half that match from a hospital bed, but...
I was at work.
But yeah, that was one for the books.
Yeah.
So I'm excited, hopefully, to see more of that. I'm excited
Yeah.
to see the Justice lineup, especially with how much they've been pushing Lulzish and Elevote.
Yeah, they're definitely not going to be at the bottom the way that they were last season.
Good.
That is...
That's
I-
Florida's
I-
job.
I feel very confident about that, but I do see them being middle of the pack.
Yeah,
'Cause
I will take middle
yeah.
of the pack over 0 and whatever.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I think they have 3 players who I have no reservation in putting them into their position, and then the rest I'm just kind of like, I could see this not working out well.
So we'll see.
But yeah, so that's our review of the rosters of the Atlantic Division, Northern and Southern Conference.
Two really solid, a whole bunch of we'll see, and 1 or 2...
Yeah, I think the standouts are going to be the NYXL and the Atlanta Reign. I think the people at the bottom of the barrel are the Boston Uprising and probably the London Spitfire.
Paris. I think
I-
Paris is going to be middling.
No, I think Paris is probably going to be to the bottom.
And Florida.
Yeah. I think they're
It's
going
going to be a rough time
I think they're
to be
going
in
to
the
be
Atlantic.
Again, they've always been the weaker division.
Yep.
And
We'll see what happens. We'll see if anyone surprises us.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe after just the first stage, when we see what the meta is, when we see what's gone
Yeah.
down, when everyone's had a chance to play, we should come back to this and see, all right, who matched up to the predictions, who surprised us in a
Yeah.
good way, and who took a tumble when we thought they should have been succeeding.
Yeah, so basically, I think the ones that I'll just run down my opinions on this. NYXL and Atlanta are definitely the ones with the highest upside. Under them would be the Outlaw and Fusion. Just below them, I would have the Washington Justice and the Toronto Defiant underneath them. I think Boston Uprising, Paris, and Florida are definitely going to be at the back of the pack. And I think London probably has the most leeway to surprise me just because so many of
Yeah.
their players are unknown quantities.
Yeah. I'm going to put a little more strength in Toronto than you do.
Yeah.
Because I think it's going to be a matter of cohesion more than it is a matter of straight talent. Because we do have a lot of talented people. We just haven't seen most of them work together.
Yeah.
It's not unknown quantities so much as it is, all right, is the glue binding y'all together going to work? So I will be interested to see that. And I think that more than any of the rest of them is going to be a team cohesion question. So I think I have a little more faith in that particular team than you do. And yes, I am absolutely biased. But for the most part, I agree.
Yeah. So next time we will cover whatever news has come up in the intervening week. And we will be looking at the Pacific Conference's teams, or Pacific Division.
Pacific Conference, I think. And then the different divisions that are...
I think they flipped it. Whatever.
North, South, East, West, whatever.
Yeah, we'll be looking at the Chengdu Hunters, the Guangzhou Charge, the Hangzhou Spark, the Seoul Dynasty, the Shanghai Dragons, the Dallas Fuel, the Los Angeles Gladiators, the Los Angeles Valiant, the now monochrome San Francisco Shock, and the Vancouver Titans.
So we're going to be looking at mostly the Pacific time zone and also Asia and Dallas.
The places closest to the Pacific Ocean, yes.
Yeah. But specifically, the PST time zone.
Yes.
Look, I find it funny that Atlantic is all over the place, and then Pacific is very specifically, here are all of our teams in an Asian continent. And in an Asian continent. Good job, Self. Wow. Asian countries. Yes, the Asian continent of Asia. Yeah. But then the rest of them are just, everyone is specifically in this one time zone, and then also Dallas.
NA education. But
Jesus Christ, tell me about it. I went to public school.
So, yeah, we'll have a lot more teams to talk about, which I think, not to put down the teams that we just talked about, I think most of the teams that we're invested in personally are on this end of the bracket.
I don't know. I just spent 3 teams over there calling them my boys. So
yeah, but
and half of my investment in Los Angeles threw itself into Toronto. So
yes,
what do you want from me? What do you want from me?
There's also the team that has the only female player in the Overwatch League. You have the Mad Pandas.
Yes. You have Bacon Jack and Company, which is how I wound up describing Chengdu to my roommate. Because
honestly,
I told her about Bacon Jack, and she's like, that's like the one player name she remembers. So I'm like, the Bacon Jack team. She's like, oh, those.
Which is funny because to me, the one who always stands out, like, it's Bacon Jack and it's Jinmu. Because it's one of those things where, like... they're borderline fucking suicidal.
Oh,
they
nuts.
play DPS the way that Bumper plays Reinhardt. It's like... it's one of those things where, like, it's things you would, like, criticize if you saw it in, like, a plat game in ladder, and then they do it and it works.
And
it's
you're
just
like, holy shit.
It's one of those things where it's just Jinmu's like, form up behind me, we're going in, and the rest of the team just be like,
okay!
Fuck! Like, just has to, like, dive.
Like, I mean, if any one player is a wild child, Chengdu is basically the Lost Boys. Because they're nuts. They're so much fun, but they're nuts.
Yeah, and so, yeah, we have the California teams.
And the worst color change in the league. I will be
She's talking about the Valiant.
I will be salty about my own team all I want.
I root for Dallas.
I know.
And Vancouver dropped Bumper.
Yeah.
And TZ.
Which is weird, because it's like, why? What?
We'll get into this next week.
Yep. We're gonna... I mean, Pacific might be the stronger division, but that just means we're gonna have stronger salt.
Yeah.
Let's be completely real about all of this.
Like I said, the teams that we are personally invested in, here they are.
The ones that we love are the ones that we yell at. Anyway.
I'm having, like, Christmas flashbacks.
I'm sorry. Good times, great oldies. All right, we done.
Yeah.
Sign off. Do the thing.
Normally you do that, but I'm okay. But
Yeah?
okay.
Do I?
Yeah, normally.
I'm so used to having other people start on like every single other project I'm on.
Yeah, no, normally you do that, but like I said, we'll be here next week to cover the news for the Pacific Division / conference, whichever the hell thing it is.
And I will remember how this podcast works in that time.
Anyway, I'm CJ. You can find me on Twitter at @the_rage_nerd. I also cast for Star Esports Overwatch Brawl tournament. And I have a new job in television, so you may see my name in some credits in the coming months. I will give more information on that as I find out when stuff will be airing.
And what's covered by your NDA.
It's not even an NDA thing. It's just a matter of, like, I got hired, like...
Oh, I was trying to bring the running joke back
Right,
around.
yeah, yeah. Well, the thing is, I don't think I'm going to have much stuff to be covered because it's like, it's going to be a show on the Sci-Fi Channel. We're going to have a ton of celebrity guests. So it's
True.
Stuff like that.
True. All right, and I'm Katie. You can follow me all over the social medias as well as on YouTube and Twitch at Kiaxet. That is Kiaxet. I'm trying to do more with that Twitch channel. I thought I was going to have so much free time, and then I too got a new job. So we'll see how that shakes out.
Yeah, like 3 of our circle of friends got hired in a week.
5.
5. Shit.
It's hiring season, y'all. New job. It's a
It
good
is.
time. But yeah, if you follow that Twitch channel, that is Mobile Games Played Well and Overwatch Played Poorly. I am in low bronze. I have better quick play matches. Anyway, so if you want to see that train wreck, that is a good time. Follow this podcast. I put that on that YouTube channel. I also put this podcast on Anchor. So anchor.fm/onthepoint and also any and all of your podcasting platforms of choice. That tends to be where we live, which you probably know because that's probably where you're listening to this right now, or that YouTube channel. Many a place.
It's one of the two. It's a coin toss.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for listening. Do we have anything else?
No.
All right. Let's C9.